My wife opened a secret credit card in my name. But the first bill came to me. I'm Brian, and at 66 years old, I thought I'd seen everything life could throw at me. After 42 years of marriage to Linda, raising 3 kids, and building a modest retirement nest egg through decades of careful budgeting and honest work, I believed my biggest worries were behind me. Boy, was I wrong. It started on a Tuesday morning in October. The autumn leaves were turning brilliant shades of orange and red outside our split-level home in suburban Columbus, Ohio. I was sitting at the kitchen table, sipping my morning coffee and sorting through the mail like I'd done countless times before. Bills, advertisements, the usual stuff. But then I saw it, a credit card statement addressed to me from a company I'd never heard of, Platinum Elite Financial Services. My hands trembled slightly as I tore open the envelope. The statement showed a balance of $12,437. $12,000 on a credit card I'd never applied for, never signed up for, never even knew existed. The charges were all over the place. Luxury department stores, expensive restaurants, jewelry shops, spa treatments. None of it made sense. "Linda," I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. She was upstairs getting ready for her job at the insurance office, where she'd worked part-time for the past 15 years. "Can you come down here for a minute?" I heard her heels clicking on the hardwood stairs. Linda appeared in the doorway, looking perfectly put together as always. Her silver hair styled just so, her makeup carefully applied, wearing one of those expensive blazers she'd been buying lately. Come to think of it, I'd been wondering where she was getting the money for all those new clothes. "What is it, Brian? I'm running late." She glanced at her watch, a new gold one I didn't recognize. I held up the statement. "Can you explain this to me? It's a credit card bill for over $12,000 and it has my name on it." The color drained from Linda's face so fast I thought she might faint. She gripped the doorframe and stared at the paper in my hand like it was a snake about to strike. I can explain," she stammered, but her voice was barely a whisper. "You better start explaining, because this doesn't make any sense. Look at these charges. Nordstrom, $500. Tiffany & Company, $800. The Ritz-Carlton Spa, $300. What the hell is going on, Linda?" She sank into the chair across from me, her perfectly composed exterior crumbling. For a moment she just sat there, staring at her manicured hands. When she finally looked up, her eyes were filled with tears, but there was something else there too. Guilt, fear, and something I'd never seen in my wife's eyes before. Desperation. "I needed the money," she said quietly. "You don't understand the pressure I've been under." "What pressure? What are you talking about? We talk about our finances every month. We budget together. If you needed money for something, why didn't you just ask me?" Linda's tears started falling freely now, but I noticed she was being careful not to smudge her mascara. "Because you would have said no. You always say no to everything I want." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "That's not true, and you know it. We've always made financial decisions together. We agreed on our retirement budget. We agreed to be careful with money so we could enjoy our golden years without worrying about debt." "Your golden years," she shot back, her voice gaining strength. "What about my golden years? What about what I want? I'm 63 years old, Brian. I don't want to spend whatever time I have left clipping coupons and shopping at discount stores." The kitchen fell silent, except for the ticking of the old clock above the stove. I stared at this woman I'd been married to for over 4 decades, and for the first time I felt like I was looking at a stranger. "So you committed identity theft?" I asked, my voice barely controlled. "You opened a credit card in my name without telling me." "It's not identity theft if we're married," she said defensively. "Legally, we're one unit. Besides, I was going to tell you eventually." "When? When were you going to tell me? When the bill collectors started calling, when they came to repossess our house?" Linda stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the tile floor. "You're being dramatic. It's just a credit card. We can pay it off." "With what money, Linda? We're on a fixed income. Our savings are supposed to last us the rest of our lives. How exactly do you propose we pay off $12,000 in credit card debt?" She turned away from me, looking out the window at our neighbor's perfectly manicured lawn. "We could sell some investments, or take out a loan against the house." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You want to put our home at risk to pay for your shopping sprees? They weren't shopping sprees, she snapped, whirling around to face me. I bought things I needed, things that made me feel good about myself. Do you know how long it's been since you've complimented me? Since you've taken me somewhere nice? Since you've made me feel like I'm worth spending money on? Her words hit me like a slap. I tried to remember the last time I'd told Linda she looked beautiful, the last time we'd gone out for a nice dinner, the last time I'd bought her flowers just because. The truth was I couldn't remember. Linda, I didn't know you felt that way. But this isn't the way to handle it. We should have talked about this. We could have figured something out together. Could we? She asked, her voice thick with emotion. Really, Brian? When was the last time you listened to me when I said I wanted something? When was the last time you said yes when I suggested we do something fun? I wanted to argue, but the words stuck in my throat. Had I become that controlling? That tight with money? I'd always thought I was being responsible, practical, but looking at Linda now, seeing the pain and frustration in her eyes, I wondered if I'd been something else entirely. How long has this been going on? I asked quietly. Linda sat back down, her defiance melting away. About 6 months. I started small, just a few $100s here and there. But then, it got easier. And I felt so good when I could buy nice things, when I could go to lunch with my friends and not worry about splitting the check down to the penny. 6 months, I repeated, trying to process it. You've been lying to me for 6 months. I wasn't lying exactly. I just didn't tell you. That's the definition of lying, Linda. We sat in silence for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. I could hear the neighbor's dog barking, the distant sound of traffic on the main road, the ordinary sounds of life going on while my world fell apart. What else? I asked finally. What do you mean? What else don't I know about? Are there other credit cards, other debts? Linda's hesitation told me everything I needed to know. Linda, I need you to tell me everything, right now. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small stack of credit cards. My heart sank as I counted them. 5 cards, all with my name on them, all from different companies. How much? I asked, my voice barely audible. Total? About $38,000. The room started spinning. $38,000. Our entire emergency fund was only $25,000. We'd have to liquidate investments, possibly take out a second mortgage on the house we'd worked so hard to pay off. Jesus Christ, Linda. $38,000? What were you thinking? I was thinking about living, she said, her voice gaining strength again. I was thinking about enjoying life while I still can. I was thinking about feeling good about myself for once, instead of constantly worrying about every penny we spend. And you were thinking about ruining our retirement in the process. Maybe I was thinking that retirement isn't worth much if you're miserable during it. I stared at her. This woman I'd shared a bed with for over 40 years, and realized I didn't know her at all. Or maybe I'd known her once, but had stopped paying attention somewhere along the way. We need to see a financial advisor, I said finally, and a marriage counselor. Brian, no, Linda, this isn't something we can just sweep under the rug. You've potentially destroyed our financial security. You've lied to me for months. You've committed fraud using my identity. This is serious. Linda's composure finally cracked completely. She put her face in her hands and sobbed, her shoulders shaking. I know it's serious. I know I messed up. I felt so invisible, Brian, so forgotten. When I used those cards for a few minutes, I felt like I mattered again. Despite my anger, despite my fear about our financial future, I felt a stab of pain for her. When had our marriage become so cold that she felt invisible? When had I stopped seeing her as a person with her own needs and desires, but feeling sorry for her didn't change the facts? We were in serious trouble, and I wasn't sure our marriage could survive it. The rest of that day passed in a blur of phone calls and paperwork. I called each credit card company to verify the accounts and get the exact balances. Linda had been surprisingly organized. She had all the statements hidden in a folder in her desk drawer. The total damage was $37,892. I also called our bank, our financial advisor, and made an appointment with a lawyer to understand our options. The lawyer, a sharp woman in her 50s named Patricia Chen, didn't mince words. "Your wife has committed credit card fraud," she told us during our appointment the next day. "The fact that you're married doesn't make it legal for her to open accounts in your name without your knowledge or consent." Linda shifted uncomfortably in her chair. "But we're married. Don't married couples share everything?" "Not like this," Ms. Chen replied. "Your husband could press charges if he wanted to. The credit card companies could also pursue criminal charges. You're looking at potential felony charges, Mrs. Henderson." The word felony seemed to hit Linda like a physical blow. She paled and gripped the arms of her chair. "What are our options?" I asked. "Well, Mr. Henderson, you could dispute the charges as fraudulent, which they technically are, but that would likely result in criminal charges against your wife. Alternatively, you could accept responsibility for the debt and work out payment plans with the creditors." Accept responsibility for debt I didn't create. It's not uncommon in marriage fraud cases. Many spouses choose to protect their partner from criminal prosecution by taking on the financial responsibility. I looked at Linda, who was staring at the floor. 42 years of marriage, 3 children, a lifetime of shared memories. Could I really send my wife to prison? But could I forgive her for this betrayal? Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into solving the financial crisis. I met with our financial advisor, restructured our retirement accounts, and set up payment plans with the credit card companies. We'd have to sell our vacation home in Florida, cash in some investments early with penalties, and drastically cut our living expenses. Our comfortable retirement had become a struggle to make ends meet. Linda went to work each day as if nothing had happened, but the tension in our house was thick enough to cut with a knife. We barely spoke except when necessary. She slept in the guest room. I found myself wondering if this was how our marriage would end, not with a dramatic fight or affair, but with the slow death of trust and intimacy. 3 weeks after discovering the credit cards, Linda came home from work looking different. There was something in her posture, something determined and almost defiant. "We need to talk," she said, setting her purse down on the kitchen counter. "I'm listening." "I've been thinking about what Ms. Chen said, about having options." I felt a chill run down my spine. "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe you should turn me in. Maybe I should face the consequences of what I did." I stared at her. "Linda, you could go to prison." "I know." She sat down across from me, her hands folded on the table. "But maybe that's better than living like this. Maybe that's better than watching you hate me a little more each day." "I don't hate you. Don't you?" She looked directly at me for the first time in weeks. "Because I'd hate me if I were you. I'd hate someone who destroyed everything we worked for. I'd hate someone who lied and cheated and stole." I wanted to tell her she was wrong, but the words wouldn't come, because part of me did hate what she'd done. Part of me was furious and felt betrayed and wondered how I could ever trust her again. "I made a decision," she continued. "I'm leaving." "What?" "I'm filing for divorce. I've already talked to a lawyer." The world seemed to tilt sideways. "Linda, let's not make any hasty decisions. We can work through this. We can go to counseling." "No, Brian, we can't. Because you'll never forgive me for this, and I'll never forgive myself. And I can't live the rest of my life watching you try to pretend that you don't resent me. Where will you go? How will you support yourself?" For the first time in weeks, Linda smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "I've been planning this for a while. I'm moving to Arizona to live with my sister. I've already arranged to transfer my job out there." "You've been planning this? For how long?" "Since the day you found the first credit card statement. Maybe longer. Maybe I've been planning to leave for years without even realizing it." I felt like I was drowning. "The debt will be yours to deal with. I know that's not fair, but life isn't fair, Brian. I created this mess, but I can't fix it. Maybe you can do better without me dragging you down." "Linda, please, let's just take some time to think about this." She shook her head. "I've done nothing but think about it. I've thought about how we got here, how we became 2 strangers living in the same house. I've thought about how I felt so lonely and invisible that I was willing to commit fraud just to feel alive again. I've thought about how you were so focused on protecting our money that you forgot about protecting our marriage." Her words stung because they contained more truth than I wanted to admit. "I'm not saying it's your fault," she continued. I'm the one who made the choice to open those credit cards. I'm the one who lied. But we both made choices that led us here, and I don't think we can unmake them." That night, Linda packed 2 suitcases and left. Just like that. 42 years of marriage ended with a quiet goodbye and the sound of her car pulling out of our driveway. I sat in our empty house, surrounded by decades of shared memories, and tried to figure out how everything had gone so wrong so fast. How had I missed the signs that my wife was so unhappy? How had I failed to notice that our marriage had become a business partnership focused solely on financial security? The divorce proceedings were surprisingly quick and civil. Linda didn't ask for alimony or try to split our assets. She just wanted out. I kept the house, the remaining investments, and all $37,000 of credit card debt. She kept her car, her clothes, and her freedom. 6 months later, I was sitting in the same kitchen where this all started, sorting through the mail. Most of the credit cards were paid off now, thanks to liquidating investments and severely cutting expenses. I'd learned to cook, to do my own laundry, to live alone for the first time in over 4 decades. My daughter Sarah called that morning. "How are you doing, Dad?" "I'm managing," I told her, which was true. I was managing. I wasn't thriving, I wasn't happy, but I was surviving. "Have you heard from Mom? She sent a Christmas card, says she's doing well in Arizona. Dad, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you regret not fighting harder to save your marriage?" I considered the question. It was one I'd been asking myself for months. "I don't know, sweetheart. I think maybe our marriage was broken long before your mother opened those credit cards. Maybe the credit cards were just a symptom of something deeper that was wrong between us." "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe we both stopped trying years ago. Maybe I became so focused on securing our future that I forgot about enjoying our present. And maybe your mother felt so unheard and unimportant that she was willing to risk everything just to feel alive again. That doesn't excuse what she did. No, it doesn't, but it explains it maybe. And understanding why something happened doesn't mean you have to forgive it or accept it." After I hung up with Sarah, I sat in the quiet house and thought about the choices that had led me here. I thought about the credit card statement that had changed everything, about the look of desperation in Linda's eyes when I confronted her, about the way our marriage had slowly eroded over years of taking each other for granted. I wasn't sure I'd made the right choices. I wasn't sure there were any right choices in a situation like that. But I was learning to live with the consequences of the choices I had made. The house felt different now, not just empty, but peaceful in a way it hadn't been for years. I was learning things about myself I'd never known. I was discovering that I actually enjoyed cooking, that I didn't mind doing my own laundry, that I could manage my finances just fine on my own. I was also learning that loneliness and solitude were 2 different things. I was alone, but I wasn't as lonely as I'd expected to be, maybe because for the first time in years I wasn't living with someone who resented me. A year after Linda left, I received a letter from her. She'd found a job at an insurance company in Phoenix and was renting a small apartment near her sister. She was dating someone, a widower named Frank, who liked to travel and didn't worry too much about money. "I'm not writing to ask for forgiveness," the letter said. "I know what I did was wrong, and I know I hurt you in ways that can't be undone. I'm writing to say that I hope you're finding peace in your new life. I hope you're discovering parts of yourself that got lost somewhere along the way, like I am. I want you to know that our marriage wasn't all bad. We raised 3 wonderful children together. We built a good life. We just forgot how to be happy in it. I'm not the same person who opened those credit cards in your name. I'm not sure I'm a better person, but I'm a more honest one. I'm learning to live with less money but more joy. I hope you're learning something too. Take care of yourself, Brian. You deserve to be happy." I read the letter 3 times, then folded it carefully and put it in the drawer with all the other important papers. I wasn't ready to forgive Linda, and I might never be. But I was beginning to understand her, and maybe that was enough. The credit card debt was finally paid off 18 months after I'd first discovered it. I celebrated by taking myself out to dinner at a nice restaurant, something I probably wouldn't have done when Linda and I were together. I ordered the expensive steak and a glass of good wine, and I didn't feel guilty about it. At 68 years old, I was starting over. It wasn't the retirement I'd planned, but it was the life I had. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. Looking back now, I can see that the credit card statement that arrived that October morning wasn't really the beginning of the end of my marriage. It was just the moment when the end became impossible to ignore. Linda and I had been growing apart for years, making assumptions about each other, taking each other for granted, forgetting that a marriage needs more than shared bills and retirement accounts to survive. Would I change what happened if I could? I honestly don't know. The betrayal was devastating. The financial damage was severe, and the loneliness was harder than I'd expected. But I also learned things about myself that I might never have discovered otherwise. I learned that I was stronger than I thought, more resilient than I'd imagined, and capable of building a life that was truly my own. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Linda had come to me before opening those credit cards. If she'd told me she felt invisible, if she'd asked for more romance, more adventure, more joy in our daily lives. Would I have listened? Would I have changed? I'd like to think I would have, but I'm not sure. I was pretty set in my ways, pretty focused on security and savings and doing things the responsible way. Maybe it took losing everything to realize that responsibility without happiness is just another kind of prison. These days, I video chat with my kids and grandchildren regularly. I've joined a hiking group for seniors and discovered that I love being outdoors. I volunteer at the local food bank, which has taught me perspective about what real financial hardship looks like. I'm even taking a cooking class where I've made friends with other single people navigating life after major changes. I still manage my money carefully. The experience with Linda's debt taught me the importance of that. But I also spend money on things that bring me joy. I travel more than Linda and I ever did. I buy books I want to read. I get my car detailed not because it needs it, but because I like driving a clean car. Most importantly, I've learned to pay attention to the people in my life in a way I never did before. When my daughter calls, I really listen. When my son visits, I put away my phone and focus on him. When I go out with friends, I'm present in the moment instead of thinking about what needs to be done at home. The credit card fraud that ended my marriage taught me that financial betrayal is devastating, but emotional neglect is just as damaging. Linda was wrong to handle her unhappiness the way she did, but I was wrong to let our marriage become so cold and transactional that she felt theft was her only option for feeling alive. I can't go back and change any of it, but I can learn from it, and I can build a life going forward that honors both financial responsibility and emotional well-being. It's not the life I planned, but it's a life I'm learning to love. At 70 years old now, I know that every day is a gift. I'm not going to waste any more of them being miserable, whether that's because of money worries or loneliness or regret. Linda was right about one thing. Retirement isn't worth much if you're miserable during it. I'm not miserable anymore, and maybe that's the most valuable thing I learned from the worst betrayal of my life.